Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Double Overtime. My name's Aidan Michaels. Jack Weisberg here with me, as always. We are here for a weekly recap. We've got a few things to talk about. We're going to dive right into the first one as we begin to talk about Wimbledon. Of course, Jannik Sinner winning the Wimbledon title over in London about a month ago. Uh, it had record numbers, Wimbledon. It had record number of attendance, total attendance, despite battling with the World Cup. Obviously, the World Cup not being in England, so they didn't really have to battle in terms of the locals going. But even in terms of viewership online or viewership just watching it on ESPN, at least in the States, record numbers for Wimbledon, despite having to battle with the World Cup, Jack. I mean, that's some pretty good numbers. Do you think it had anything to do with the fact that tennis is just on the rise? Or, I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the factors for that.
I think it's got to be correlated with tennis being on the rise. I mean, here, let's talk about some of these numbers, right? 550,000 attendees, 5 billion social impressions. That's like NBA finals numbers. Their socials grew 11%. Like this is exactly what you're saying is what's happening here. They produced more than 6,100 pieces of social content, which I don't know where we're getting that number from, but I'm sure it's a whole lot more than that. Um, and if I'm being honest, I didn't even know this was going on.
You're not a tennis
So
guy.
there's still people that don't know that this is happening, and it still had 5 billion impressions in.
Yeah, alternatively as well, I'm a guy that loves tuning in to tennis. I love Wimbledon, I love the Open, I love all these tennis tournaments. But obviously, you know me, I'm more of a World Cup guy, so I'm tuning into the World Cup way more than Wimbledon. So I'm somebody, who normally every summer at this point I'd be watching Wimbledon. But this past time, I was watching the World Cup, so you were almost losing some viewers in a sense, yet it didn't. The numbers have shown that the World Cup pretty much had zero impact on Wimbledon. And obviously, like you said, those numbers are crazy. The fact that they increased their social following by 11% is unreal. Now, there is obviously, like I said, like you said as well, the correlation of tennis just being on the rise. The previous Wimbledon attendance record was set back in 2025. So just the tournament before this tournament. So obviously it is going like this. But I just thought that it was going to go down because of the World Cup. There's a couple factors, though. Number one, this is the first rain-free Wimbledon since 2019, which is huge, obviously. However, they were also in the midst of a massive heat wave. I mean, Jack, I was there in the United Kingdom while Wimbledon was going on. Just a week before the tournament began, the UK saw their hottest June day ever, which I can tell you where I was staying, we had our AC broken. So we had no AC and we were just in the heat, and it was horrible. So, yes, there was no rain at Wimbledon. That's great. However, it was 95, 96, 97 degrees, which, for us, Jack, being Valley kids from California, that's an average, June, July day for us. But for the UK, that is again, like I said, their hottest day, June day in history. So they had that massive heat wave, but the fans still showed out and still went and sat in the sun to watch tennis. The second factor is Arthur Ferry, the Brit, who made it all the way into the semifinals. Big upset. I think he lost to Zverev in the semifinal, who ended up losing to Sinner in the final. But that's a guy that, took full advantage of home court in his home country, the United Kingdom. And I think that certainly helped a little bit when the Brits are like, well, we don't really want to go in the heat right now, but man, there's a Brit that we have to support in the semifinal in Wimbledon. We'll have to go. So I think those two factors have somewhat of an impact on it. But I'm just more shocked, Jack, on the fact that the World Cup didn't really interfere at all because I mean, you know how the Brits are with their football, especially when England is playing. They're going to pack the pubs. You think they'd rather see Wimbledon? No, of course not. They'd rather go and watch their boys in the World Cup. Over in the U.S., though, ESPN recorded its second most watched Wimbledon in history. So the people in the United States, who, by the way, were watching the World Cup more than they ever have, obviously with the U.S. being one of the main hosts of the World Cup, uh, Wimbledon was still producing those big numbers on ESPN, rivaling Fox for the World Cup. Now, of course, the World Cup had more viewers on Fox than Wimbledon did on ESPN, but I'm just very surprised and a little shocked, happily shocked, that Wimbledon still produced these huge numbers despite having to deal with the World Cup.
it seems like the popular place to go, even, I mean, right, the World Cup's going on or was going on in the US. So what are you gonna do when you're in the UK? You're gonna go watch Wimbledon and watch soccer on your phone. Excuse me, watch football on your phone, right? Makes it a lot easier. You kill two birds with one stone. I mean, even though I wasn't in the know about this, it seems like people are talking about this Wimbledon as one of the best marketed sporting events in history. And I guess the numbers prove it. But yeah, really fascinating to see the rise of tennis here. Um, yeah, you'd like to think maybe golf can do a similar thing one day.
Perhaps. I mean, that's one of those where I mean, if you ask Americans, maybe not Americans, but I feel like in general, what the three on paper most boring sports would be, they would say tennis, soccer, and golf. Which I disagree. Obviously, I love soccer and I love tennis, and golf is one of those where it's like I can have it on in the background. But I know a lot of people, especially in the States, get super into it. I don't know. I mean, golf, I think for golf to get bigger, at least in the US, there's the big names. Obviously, the biggest name I think right now would be Rory McIlroy. We need another guy like Tiger Woods for the U.S. to come in. I think, I mean, I'm sure what Scotty Scheffler is like their big guy now. He's an American, right? But he just doesn't have that same namesake as Tiger Woods. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you wonder if golf can do the same thing. And obviously, at the end of the month, the U.S. Open is coming. So we'll see how that tournament goes. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit less than Wimbledon, but we'll see how that goes. And I hope Carlos Alcaraz, who obviously missed Wimbledon due to an injury, will hopefully be back by the Open. That's another thing too, by the way, Jack. Alcaraz being injured, best tennis player in the world essentially, or at least top two, missing the tournament, and they still, have these numbers. That's pretty big stuff. That is really really big stuff. So again. I'm glad Wimbledon was doing well, and I saw some stat. It has nothing to like. It's such a zero stat. It's just a funny number, though. They sold a record number of Wimbledon hats, which I think was over 117,000 hats sold during the Wimbledon. I think whatever it is, 2 week period, which is insane. But it makes sense because there's sun. So it's like, are you gonna bring your own hat, or are you gonna spend $100 probably on a Wimbledon hat? But 117,000 people bought some hats, and it just shows like even the merchandising is on the rise, which is absolutely crazy. But anyway, that's Wimbledon for you. The way we're doing this episode is we're just going on, we have a few topics to talk about, and they're so random, so there's not really a good segue for any of these. So we're just going to go straight into the next one. We're going to talk about one of the more exciting young NBA players who is a restricted free agent, his rights belonging to the Denver Nuggets, Peyton Watson. There's a lot of talk as what he's going to earn in his next contract. Who's going to be the team paying him? Is it going to be the Nuggets or is it going to be another team? The question that we have posed here is Peyton Watson worth 70 million? Jack, from what you've seen from him in his young career so far, what do you think?
Absolutely. Maybe not, this upcoming year is he worth $30 million a year, but if you give him a 4-year deal, I mean, his potential is just out of this world. I'm a big fan of Peyton Watson as a Laker fan. Obviously, we delusionally think that somehow we could land him in a sign-in trade. But when it comes to Peyton Watson, we're talking about a big 3 or 4. He could even play the two because he's such a good shooter. And he really came out of his shell this past year, averaging almost 15 points a game, almost 5 rebounds. But it's not even really the stats. This guy can defend at a really high level. And Denver doesn't want to. I mean, look at all these guys Denver's paying. They're paying Aaron Gordon. They're paying Christian Braun, who's obviously not worth that crazy contract. They want to get rid of that contract. They're paying all these guys that really aren't worth the money. Even Cameron Johnson, he was a huge disappointment for them this past year. And when we're talking about is this guy a $7 million player, I think the question is more, is he worth $120 million? And I would still say that the answer is yes in the long run if he can stay healthy. That was the question last year. If he was to stay healthy, Denver would have already given him a contract. They would have moved on from Aaron Gordon. They would have moved on from one of their bigger contracts, but they know that they could probably keep him on a restricted free agent deal for one more season, wait till he hits free agency next year to give him the big deal. And I think that's what they're betting on right now, so that they don't have to match uh, in these crazy numbers. But Aiden, I wonder what do you think is a fair offer for Watson to get?
I mean, I know uh, I look at hypothetical deals, I look at some comparable players. I look at a guy, DeAndre Hunter, who has almost identical stats to Watson, at least last season, and signed that 4 year, 90 million deal, which is something that I forget who it was on ESPN. Somebody on ESPN suggested a hypothetical deal for Watson, which was a 4 year, 90 million deal, the same deal that DeAndre Hunter got. Um, he wants Watson allegedly, reportedly, wants around $25 million a year. That $90 million deal would put him at around 22 and a half. Is he a $70 million player? 100%. Is he a $90 million player? He could be, but is Denver going to take the chance and give him that deal? I'm not 100% certain just yet. I will say, like you said, his numbers aren't incredible, but they are improving. And again, he's what, 23 years old? They're certainly improving. He's shooting 41 from three, which is a major improvement for him. It's not unreal, but it's it's a huge improvement. Um, I'm not sure. I mean, right now he's on what? What was that deal he's on? It's a 4 year, $11 million deal. He's making less than $3 million a year. Obviously, that's his first contract. You're not going to make $70 million right off the bat. Um, but it's interesting when you were saying that they might give him that 1 year deal and then worry about the extension next year. If you're Peyton Watson, if I'm Peyton Watson, I'm not doing that. I might want to stay in Denver because they are a good team and they've got some more potential to do some damage, but other teams are going to want this guy, right? I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to perform under the cloud of having a 1 year deal and there's uncertainty. If I don't perform, then I'm going to miss out on a lot of money. I want to secure that money now because guess what? If Denver doesn't want to pay me the money, Los Angeles will, the Clippers. Other teams will. The Bucks will. There are other teams out there that will pay me my money if the Denver Nuggets won't. I'm not doing that for 1 year. I want to be locked up right now. Give me 4 years, give me 5 years, not a season.
The issue with that right now is all these teams are handcuffed by the aprons. Uh, so they can't offer Peyton Watson what he wants right now. No one's able to offer Peyton Watson even at the bare minimum a $70 million deal because everyone already has their money tied up. So even though signing his restricted free agent offer sheet isn't the best option for him, or it is the best option for Denver, and it might give him a lot of, I mean, it will give him even more leverage going into the next offseason because he will be an unrestricted free agent. Then he can come to the Lakers, and yeah, that's a dynasty right there.
However,
And also relating it to the DeAndre Hunter contract,
yeah,
DeAndre Hunter's, 27, going on 28. Um, and he's reached his peak. When we're talking about Peyton Watson, this dude's young. This dude can ball. So as much as like similar players, similar stats, yes, but I think when we're talking about Peyton Watson, we're talking about the potential of what this contract could become, what this
maybe
guy can become.
I could be wrong, and I'm not sure. Didn't DeAndre Hunter sign that deal when he was 24? I think I could be wrong. I have to look into it. But I could have sworn he signed that deal when he was around the same age as Peyton Watson, which is why I compare that contract with the hypothetical one that Peyton Watson deserves. I get what you're saying. Other teams have their money tied up. Uh, it will give him more leverage in the long run when he becomes a UFA rather than what he is now an RFA. But if I'm Peyton Watson's agent, I'm not letting him sign a 1 year deal. I said, hey guys, listen, we're gonna have the leverage if you give me a 1 year deal and other teams are gonna want me. But you gotta protect your boy. You gotta protect your client, Peyton Watson, here by saying, hey, if this guy gets injured, he obviously was hurt for quite a bit of the season last year, playing only 50 some games. And if he gets hurt again, or if he just has a bad year and other teams aren't going to want to sign him for the big money, that's going to really hurt him. But if he gets locked up now and has that guaranteed money, it's different. So I think, like you said, if other teams can't get him, if the Clippers can't get him, or the Bucks, whatever it is, or even I heard, Cleveland was trying to get in on him, whatever. A bunch of teams want this guy, obviously, but for the teams that can't, and let's say it is Denver that has, I mean, again, he's an RFA, so Denver does have the advantage here. You got to pay him his money. And it might not be 90 million. It might not be, he wants 25 per year. It's not going to be, it might not be that. It might not be that 4 year, 90 million deal where he's making 22 and a half a year. It might be a little bit less than that. But it's certainly going to be hopefully in the 80 million range. If he thinks he's worth 90 to 100, they think he's worth, let's say, 70. I'm sure they'll meet in the middle and go 85. Maybe he'll sign a 3 year deal. I'm not sure, but the best thing for him right now, I think, is to get a multi-year, 3, 4, 5 year deal with maybe Denver. Uh, but that a 1 year deal, I think, would just kill him. Like the leverage doesn't matter if you get hurt or if you have a bad season. I know you don't want to think about that stuff when you're an athlete, but you have to. Because we've seen so many times in every sport, a player that maybe signs a little deal like that gets hurt and they lose a heck of a lot of money that they could have earned if they just signed a bigger deal. But we'll see. I mean, maybe an extension. Maybe that's a thing you talk about with the GM. I don't know what they talk about in those rooms, but maybe it is something like, hey, we'll sign you to a 1 year, and then if, halfway through the season you're killing it, we talk about an extension. But I think if they offer a 1 year deal to him, he's going to feel almost insulted, and I think the agent is probably going to tell him, hey, I think we can look at other places that'll actually value you more. Because what does that tell you, Jack? If I come to you and say, "Hey, dude, like, we really think you're going to be a great player in the future. You're a star for us. We think you're going to be a future, perhaps face of this franchise. We're just going to give you a 1 year contract because we're just not sure yet." What are you thinking? You're going to think, "Well, you don't have any trust in me. You think I'm going to be this big star? Show me the money."
Yeah, I'm thinking it's time to go to Los Angeles at that point. I mean, I know Los Angeles isn't offering me a 1 year deal. I mean, shoot, Los Angeles was just about to give Jonathan Kuminga a 3 year, $45 million deal. Imagine what we're willing to give to Peyton Watson.
Yeah.
We just got to free the money up. So, um, yeah, I love Peyton Watson. I love the idea of Peyton Watson, especially in the Lakers system. Hate what he can do for Denver,
Yeah.
especially a fully healthy Denver. They will be very dangerous in the playoffs fully healthy with Peyton Watson. But yeah, we'll hopefully we won't have to see that next playoffs. But let's move on to our next segment here.
All right, on to the next one. Amazon. Now, this doesn't really affect us American hockey watchers, but I think just for the game itself and for those watching in Canada, Amazon just struck a big 12-year deal for Wednesday night hockey in Canada. So they had some Monday night games, and obviously, even in the States, Prime had a couple of games last season. They're really trying to get into the hockey game. So they just signed that deal through the end of the 2037-38 season. They'll have at least 26 national regular season games per season in that 12-year deal. They get two first round playoff series and one second round playoff series every year in the playoffs. And I don't know in the fine print of the deal whether or not if the numbers do so well that they'll get a second round matchup or they'll get a conference final in year 8 or whatever it is. We're so far from that. The games are going to be available in English and French. So for those in Eastern Canada, they can tune in French for the Canadians and for the Senators, etc. Obviously, Sportsnet in Canada, that's their main channel for the Canadians. They're going to continue to carry the majority of Canada's NHL games. But this is just big. I mean, this was an $11 billion deal from Rogers Communications and Amazon getting a piece of the pie there. And it's a big 12-year deal for them securing that. Amazon's on the rise in sports with Prime Video, obviously getting Thursday Night Football a few years ago at this point, getting some basketball, getting some hockey, getting some other random sports around, getting some soccer as well. I think it's great, and I really hope that this deal proves to be successful for the Canadians as ESPN's deal was not successful for us Americans.
I don't think this is great, Aiden. I
Oh,
mean, we look at what this is doing to the fans. I mean, look how much we are spending on all these different platforms. We're talking, you're saying, oh, they're up and coming, Amazon's up and coming. So is all the other platforms that we watch these games on. We have HBO Max where we get a few NBA games every year. We have Amazon, we have Hulu, we have Netflix. All these guys are up and coming, and it's like, okay, well now we're paying 10 different subscriptions. And with hockey, I had a feeling it was going to get better somehow, but obviously that was a false hope because here we are and we're just getting more fragmented and this industry it's not looking good. And now we know that Amazon has two first round playoff series and one second round playoff series each year until the 2038 season. Are you kidding me? Like it's not getting any better and as a fan, you should not be happy.
that's very fair, actually. I mean, that's a good point. Obviously, looking at it from the NHL's perspective and from Amazon's perspective, that is good. But looking at it from the fans' perspective, you make a great point. If you're already a Prime member in Canada, luckily for them, you don't have to buy any add-ons. You do get it. But again, a lot of people don't have Prime, and a lot of people don't want to just buy Prime because think about it. Like for sports is one thing. For shows and movies, it's like, oh, have you seen this show? Oh no, it's on Apple TV Plus, or it's on Peacock, or it's on Hulu, and it's like, how many of these are you gonna buy? The fact that Jack, I can't even watch my LA Dodgers while I'm here in LA without paying for Sportsnet, which I don't have. So I'm not able to watch the Dodgers. I can only watch them when I'm back in Madison because I have the baseball package that doesn't work when you're in that city of your team, which is already unfortunate. You have to pay to watch our Kings here as well. Yeah, that does suck. That's a great point. That does suck, and like you said, it's even worse when it's playoffs and you want to watch a playoff series and you can't because of the subscription that you need to pay for. So that's a completely fair point. It's not ideal for the fans. Obviously, Sportsnet is still going to have most of the games, but yeah, I mean, how many times have you and I, for example, Kings games, when they're on a national network for whatever it is, 4 or 5 games a season, it's great. But then every other game is going to be on what is it, Bally Sports, which if you don't have that subscription, you can't watch it. When I'm in Madison, I can't watch it on Bally Sports. I have to watch it on ESPN Plus, which is a whole other, it's a whole other thing you have to buy. Um, so that's fair enough. It is. I hate to say it because I'm not in favor of this, and I don't want people to think that I am, but it is kind of an adapt or die situation for the networks. I mean, they want what's best for the fans, but what they want more is what's going to make them more money. Exactly. And that's how it's going. You can't be the network that falls behind. Everyone is trying to get their piece of the pie. Amazon is getting their piece of the pie. Not that they need any more pieces. They're getting a little big, but I think I think that's just what it's inevitable, I think, which sucks.
Aiden, tell me if I'm wrong. I forgot which broadcast it was, but they're like following the puck or following the puck weird or some weird camera angles. Isn't that Amazon?
It might be. They did it a couple times for ESPN as like a throwback because they used to do that back in the 90s, but I think Amazon. Oh, well, there's the power play situation, which is this is ESPN and I think maybe TNT as well, where every time they're on the power play, when a player touches the puck, you see the big name plate and then sometimes they have the trailer. I'm like, oh my God. Like, first of all, in the power play, that's when everybody's moving slower, obviously, because they're setting up and passing. I don't need to see when, you know, Drew Doughty and Adrian Kempe are playing catch with each other. I don't need to see their nameplate going back and forth. It's such a distraction. I sound like an old man yelling at a cloud here, but it's like, oh my God, it bothers me so much. I can't stand it. Stop. That's what the announcer's for, telling us who it is. You have eyes. At least for us big fans, we know, okay, this player's number 8, Dowdy. You can kind of tell. But for fans that, are just maybe tuning in, again, that's what the announcer's for. You hear what they have to say, what he or she is saying, and what name they're saying. You don't need this thing that's right on the top of their head. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, it's horrible. I'm glad you brought that up because that's such a brutal addition. And I'm not going to speak, ill on these networks really, but the way that ESPN has handled hockey since signing that new deal a few years back is brutal. It's brutal. I can't even I don't even want to watch. Obviously, I'm always going to, and ESPN's always going to take my money so I can watch the Kings. But gosh, Jack, I mean, the way they've handled so many of these things are terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, it's as if they're not fans themselves. They've never watched hockey themselves. And yeah, the trailer, all those things really upset me. And I just hope that in this deal with Amazon that they put that in the fine print that if you do that again, we're pulling the plug on this deal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not to shift too much here, but just have a question. I mean, obviously we know the bigger sports in the US, football, basketball, baseball even, right? But definitely football, basketball, NFL, NBA are the top two. When ESPN signed that deal with the NHL, surely the people, I hope, making the deal on behalf of the National Hockey League made it clear that the NHL is going to need some more coverage. And I'm not talking just coverage by showing their games, but I'm talking about they should be showing up on the website. They should be posted about on social media. They are not. They are not. So I don't know if that was in the deal, but I mean, on ESPN, I don't see any hockey content. And when I do, it's like, do you even watch the games? What are you talking about? It's like, oh, here are the top 10 best left wingers in the game. And it's like, this guy hasn't been good since 2019. It's like, what are you watching? Are you just Googling this? Are you ChatGPTing this? It's like, I can't stand it. I mean, it's horrible that the NHL signed away their rights to a network that doesn't care about them. It's horrible for the fans. Again, it's a lucrative deal for them. They get a lot of the money. And that's fine. They don't care about the fans, clearly. Because what are we doing here? TNT, I don't mind. I mean, TNT's got a great studio with Bizanet and Liam McHugh and Wayne Gretzky and Anson Carter and those guys. They've got a great broadcast team. Their main guy, Kenny Albert, is fantastic. Obviously, one of the best announcers ever. So TNT side of things is a lot better. ESPN side of things is not so great. But yeah, when it just comes to coverage, you go on the ESPN website, you'll see NBA, NHL, or sorry, NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer, golf, college football. It's like I get that those may be more popular. Honestly, college football probably more popular than the NHL. But you're talking about the four major U.S. sports or North American sports. NHL is that fourth sport, and if you're going to sign a big deal, you need to give them coverage. How else are you going to grow the game? You know?
Yeah, and when we're just talking about like the priorities of these big companies that are signing these deals, it's like the NHL comes fourth every time, whether
Yeah.
it's Fanatics, ESPN, whatever it is, like the NHL comes fourth, and then now that they have all these deals, what are we doing with it? The NHL is still fourth. The priority is still like it's very clear. I'd love to see the numbers on the breakdown of how much NHL they are covering compared to the other sports because I mean, besides the size of the deal, I mean, growth is what it's all about. And if we're not promoting growth, we're promoting stagnant. Uh, it's just, it's sad. And yeah, I hope that something changes really soon. Because it upsets me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that I saw more posts about the American Cornhole League on ESPN than I did the Stanley Cup Finals is it's disheartening. As I take a sip from my drink that I can't show you what it is because we're not sponsored by them.
Yeah,
I was gonna say yet. Again, it's a
I know
great.
what drink you're drinking. I'd love to be sponsored by them. So yeah, I'll reach out.
What does it start with?
Ass.
We'll leave it at that. I would love to be sponsored by them. So any drink company that sees this that begins with S, hit us up because I love this drink and I wish one day that I could say it on the air, but I can't. Anyway, Jack, shall we move into our final little segment here?
I'd love to.
All right.
Let's do it.
So over in Brazil a while back, Victor Gabriel of Internacional was involved in a pretty bad slide tackle that actually broke was it the fibia or the tibia? It broke the leg of Cruzeiro's Gabriel Peck, who was only set to be sidelined for about 3-ish months. But that goes every time there's a big tackle like that or a big injury, it gets taken to Brazil's Superior Court of Sports Justice. Initially, they imposed a 6-match suspension for Victor Gabriel, but then they followed up by adding this condition, which is now a rule in Brazilian football, which is that however long a player is out due to an injury, the player that caused that injury shall be suspended for that period of time, capping it at 180 days. So if you're involved in an ACL tear and the guy's out for the whole year, you're not going to suspend this guy for 12 months. Now, this is an interesting thing. This sparks a lot of talk, not only in Brazilian football, not only in soccer as a whole, but even in other leagues here like the NFL and the NBA and the NHL. Victor Gabriel, of course, comes out and goes, hey, this was not intentional. Yeah, I broke this guy's leg. It's a hard tackle, not intentional. Now, I'm sure there's some truth to that. I think he was going in hard, knew that it was going to be kind of a crazy tackle. You don't expect to break the guy's leg. It's a dangerous tackle for sure, and I think a suspension, 6-match suspension seems about right. But to say that now he's going to be out for as long as Gabriel Peck is out for seems kind of crazy. Jack, your initial thoughts, perhaps on this injury specifically, but just in general about this rule. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so it was his left tibia. And I mean, when you think about it, it's crazy because this could change everything. Sure, this is like first time this is happening in soccer, but as you said, this could apply to all sports one day. And then it comes down to like, are we looking at whether is it a case by case basis, right? Are we saying, hey, this slide tackle was obviously, there was some malintent here. But this one, he's going for the ball. Like, how do you, right? How do we distinguish that? Um, and then imagine in football, like targeting, you take someone out, you end their career. You're just out for 180 days. I don't think in football you can do it, but for soccer, like it just seems, I don't know. I like it in this case. I do like it because I think he's getting what he deserves, if I'm being completely honest. But um, I just think, yeah, it's dangerous given that recovery times vary for different injuries, and especially if it's in the World Cup. I mean, what if Brazil kept going, and then this happened? That would probably be a big deal. Um, so I don't know when they're planning on implementing this fully. And if it's just the World Cup, do we know all these things?
For right now, it's just in Brazil, so for their league, so the Brazilian First Division. And I assume they're probably going to, I don't know if they have yet, but I'm sure it's going to go down for Brazilian second division and just kind of all tiers of Brazilian football. But as far as like the big leagues that we know and love, I mean, FIFA's not doing it and UEFA's not doing it. So as of right now, so like the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, the MLS, they're not doing that yet, but this is certainly going to create some conversation around it. I'm not sure if they were thinking about doing that, but now that a league like the Brazilian league just did something like that, it's definitely something to think about. But I don't think a league like the Premier League is going to do that. There's no way. There's no way.
This is a slippery slope, a really, really slippery slope. I think that punishment should be based on the tackle. And,
Yeah.
when you're making a tackle in soccer, we've both played, levels of soccer. And when you're making a tackle, you're making a calculated risk. And if that calculated risk is 99%, I'm going to take this guy's legs out, then the punishment should be based on that tackle. This guy should be punished because why are you trying to tackle if you're just going to take this guy's legs out? You're going to get a red and you should probably be suspended. But making it about the victim's recovery just doesn't really seem. At first, I liked it for this exact situation, but Maybe this is something we only implement in certain punishments where we know the length of the injury, but I don't know. It just seems like a ploy for drama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say. I mean, at first I almost didn't like it. But then I think about, I don't know who it was, but in the NHL playoffs, something happened where one of the big stars got hurt because of a very bad now you know what it was? It was Radko Gudas uh went after Austin Matthews, pretty bad hit on him, took him out for a while. And I thought my first thought was, well, Gudas should be suspended for as long as it takes for Matthews to come back. And I've thought that in the playoffs too, when I think Adrian Kempe got elbowed a couple years ago by I don't know who it was, maybe it was Keith Yandle or something like that, or Cogliano, someone like that. Got elbowed in the face, and the guy got a 1 game suspension, but Kempe ended up being out for 3 or 4 games. And I'm like, they should put him out for 3 or 4 games. So I've thought about this before, and then now that it's actually happening, it just feels a little weird. Um, it's hard to say. I don't know, because what is, okay, like when I tore my ACL, they gave it as a foul. This guy kind of touched me a little bit, and I stepped wrong and tore my ACL. I was out for a year. By rule, if we were playing in Brazil today and that happened because he touched me, was there correlation? Probably not. But because he touched me and I tore my ACL, is he then going to be out a calendar year or at least 180 days because he had something to do with that injury? Come on, I wouldn't even want that for the guy that did that. You know what I mean? So it's like I get what they're doing, and I think it's sometimes justice needs to be served in that way, but sometimes it just seems a little much, especially if you know in your head that you did it by accident and it really was one of those freak injuries, and then you're out for, a half a year, 6 months. I just think that's a little unfair. Because again, Victor Gabriel going into that tackle knew that there was some sort of risk that there was going to be an injury. But if you have this rule, I feel that you're almost going to have players be less physical. You're going to have players get a little scared of going for a challenge like that because of fear that that one challenge could take them out for 6 months. And obviously it's the better part of, a guy getting his leg broken, but still, I think you're going to lose a lot of physicality. I think if we put that in the NHL, for example, you'd get guys that would kind of lay off a hit for a second or maybe not go for a fight or whatever it is. So I think it's a negative all around. But I don't mind Brazil trying it. See what happens. Give it a go. They could be
Yeah, if
good.
some league were to try it,
Yeah.
maybe Brazil's the one.
I mean, I don't know how the fans in Brazil feel, but I know that fans here at least, if we were trying it on the NHL, that would be brutal. But try it on a lower league hockey wise. And as good as Brazil are at soccer, their best players don't play in Brazil, do they? Their best players come to the better leagues and they play in Europe. I mean, you got guys like Neymar in the Brazilian league now, but he's obviously older and a bit washed at the moment. But so it's not like this is the top soccer league. I mean, this is if you were to rank the Brazilian soccer league, you would rank them probably in the, maybe between 15 and 20 top leagues in the world, which is that's pretty low. Like, um, so yeah, why not have them try it, see how it goes, see when this next big injury is going to be. Hopefully nothing crazy, but let's see when it is in Brazil and see how they deal with it. It's all up for interpretation, isn't it? It's all up to, in this case, the Brazil's Superior Court of Sports Justice. It's up to them to decide, whether or not it was intentional. And that's scary to have your future. Let's say you're 22 years old and you do some crazy tackle and you're out 6 months. That can ruin your career. Not seeing a game for 6 months. Oh, not to mention, by the way, and I know I'm rambling here, but Victor Gabriel, let's say he can't play for 180 days now. Okay, I'm telling Internacional I'm leaving. I'm going to a different country to play. I'm out of here because that rule doesn't stop me from playing in another country. It stops me playing in Brazil. Doesn't stop me from playing in Chile. Doesn't stop me from playing in Argentina. you're going to lose a lot of players. They're going to be like, okay, get me out of here, loan me out to another team, or sell me. Because if I can't play for 6 months here, I'm going to play somewhere else.
It seems like a rule that wasn't thought through completely, as I feel like you just dissected it, and now we're both looking at each other like, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fascinating to see how this one plays out.
100%. Well, Jack, that's gonna do it for our episode here. Just a couple of random topics that we went through, and that's gonna be the case for some of these videos if we just want to talk about the happenings in the sports world. Coming up, we've got a couple episodes. I mean, in the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about previews for the NFL and the NBA and the NHL when those seasons begin again. Obviously, in October, that's when the MLB playoffs are going to start, so keep an eye out for those videos. And then we still have a World Cup review to talk about. Once Parker's back from New York, this was going to be the episode today, but Parker is visiting some people back in New York City. So he'll be back. Hopefully, I think he's back this week or maybe next week. So keep an eye out for that. And then obviously the Premier League is starting up at the end of this month. So we will be sure to do a prediction video for that as well. Lots of content to go. Jack, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, this was super fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did.
Fantastic. We will see you next Thursday as we're beginning to post every single Thursday till the end of the year. That is our goal. We're really going to try and live up to it. So we will see you next Thursday. Jack Weisberg, Aiden Michaels. See you next week.